Begin? Good. Welcome, everybody. So make yourself comfortable for a little Dharma talk with the title, If You Know, How Do You Know That You Know? If that somehow sounds confusing for any one of you, welcome. It definitely is confusing for me. And I would like, in the next 20 minutes or so, I would like to unpack a little bit what this might mean to us. And this seems to be a lot about knowing, right? And isn't this Zen thing more about not knowing? So why talk about knowing so much in the first place? As Master Rinzai reminds us, to speak about a thing is to miss the mark. Or from another source that I don't remember which one exactly it was, the Tao you can talk about is not the Tao. On the other hand, when we're chanting, and when you were listening what we were chanting in the morning service, we are chanting things like, I am this light. You are this light. Or in the song of Zazen, which I expected we would hear in front of this, but anyway, it says, sentient beings are from the very beginning Buddhas. Wait, wouldn't that mean, if I assume that all of us, we are kind of sentient beings, that we are Buddhas already? What if we eventually stopped being Buddhas? Or what if we eventually forgot, maybe, that we stopped realizing who we really are? What if indeed there is nothing to achieve, nowhere to go at all, but rather to make friends with the different ways or the different forms of knowing that are accessible to us as human beings? There is a saying that says, what is the difference between an enlightened one and a not enlightened one? And the difference is, the not enlightened one thinks there is a difference. How do we make sense out of all of that? What if indeed the duality that we are finding ourselves in is created by ourselves? And exactly by the way we are thinking and how we relate to knowing. What if indeed the path of non-duality and true clarity runs straight ahead, right here, right now in front of us? If any of that has any truth to it, we seem to need to talk about our thinking and our ways of knowing. So let's explore this a little bit deeper and see why and how this might be relevant to our practice. And before we dive in, I would like to remind you of a quote from the Kalama Sutra from Buddha. Do not trust teachers. And if he would have known me, he would have said, especially not this one. Do not trust teachers. Only do not trust teachings. Only trust what is true to your own in your own experience. So that said, I would like to invite you and take the next minutes, maybe not that much as a lecture, but more as a practice. And a practice to really to check for yourself, to check inside and see what resonates with you. If you can find some kind of truth in what I'm saying. And in the cases where you agree or where you disagree, or where you even might know better than I do, just carefully register. How do you know that you agree or disagree? The secret behind all that is what I would like to introduce today. There are two distinct ways of knowing. One way to articulate is there is a knowledge by acquaintance and a knowledge by description. What is that? And what might be the difference, and why is that important for us? Knowledge by acquaintance means it's an immediate knowing. It's a recognition, recognizing what is already, what is true right now. It's not mediate. There's no mediator. There's intermediate, no intermediary in between. It's just immediate knowing. Nothing between me and what I'm knowing, just immediate knowing. And if there is some insight, some knowing, and I'm using language, ideally I do my best to give words to this immediate experience. So I try to articulate and to bring across what this experience, what this knowing is like. So this kind of knowing, this immediate knowing, it can only be experienced and known right here, right now. Always right here, right now. One simple example. If I look inside myself, and you can do the same for yourself, what I find is, oh, whoa, what kind of, my heart is kind of wildly bumping. Oh, there's a really, not very comfortable feeling in my stomach. And if I would give this a name, I would say, oh, I'm really excited. Ooh, so excited. And if I would tell more about this, I could weave a whole story about this, why I'm excited and to what kind of experiences this is related in my past and blah, 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 blah. And soon I'm going away from immediate experiencing, from the immediate truth of, oh, these sensations are here right now. This is what's true right now. And there is an immediate knowing. When you look inside yourself, you will easily recognize what is true for you. There's no question about it. Anybody has immediate access to what you know right here, right now. Question would be, what kind of story would you tell about it? But if you just let go of the story and just stay with the experience, wow, what is true right here, right now? And the other kind of knowing by description, or what we could call conceptual knowing. It's when we begin to attach labels to our feelings, like excitement. And, oh, there's a reason to this. This is because blah, blah, blah. And this is conceptual thinking. And in the whole world of narratives and of stories, and this is what human beings do, what we always will be doing. We have an immediate knowing, an immediate experience. And in the same moment, we begin to interpret what we're experiencing. We're creating a story and a narrative around this. Why is that? Why are we so compelled to these stories and narratives? We need these narratives. We as human beings, we need this. So we have to create narratives. And we have to make sure that these narratives are, as best as we can, some kind of coherence, so that they make sense to us. Why is that the case? Why is that so important? And why is that such a big and great evolutionary achievement that we as human beings are what somebody calls it, we are meaning-making animals. We are so eager to make meaning of whatever we are experiencing or whatever we are seeing or whatever we are feeling. And making meaning means we are creating a story, we are creating a narrative around what we are experiencing. And we're trying to, giving our best to integrate it in some kind of a whole and a coherent story, coherent experience. Why is that important? Because we need to be able to distinguish between things that might be potentially dangerous to us. I should know if this is just a rope coiled up in the corner, or maybe a snake that could bite me. So it's good to have a label and an understanding and a conceptual map that helps me to move along, to navigate in this complex world. So we need these kind of sense-making and these kind of narratives. But how does that relate to our spiritual practice? It's important because in our spiritual practice, what we're achieving to do is to transcend our identification with our ego. It's to do something, to let go about this attachment of my beautiful ego, my beautiful sense of self. What is this ego? It is exactly this. It's the process that continually weaves all our experiences together in one, ideally most coherent narrative as possible. And then I know who I am. And then I can tell stories about know who I am and how I became who I am and blah, 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 blah. And maybe I consider myself a spiritual a guy. I consider myself, I don't know, enlightened or awake or whatever. And this is just a story I'm telling myself. So this compulsive drive to make sense, to label, to conceptualize, to integrate in our narrative might exactly be what distracts us from the deeper and immediate experience and insight that is available right here, right now, like always. So some of you might be familiar with our Mondo Zen koan dialogue process. Some of you might not, it doesn't matter. Just, I would like to invite you to just stay with me and play around a little bit and maybe engage a little bit in kind of a practice. We will not do the formal koan process, but I will lend some ideas from the koan process for this little practice today. For me, there are three quite important aspects to the koan process in terms of, if you know, how do you know that you know? One is it's a direct pathway. It's a practice into the immediate experience of what we call clear, deep heart mind, or into the immediate experience of immediate knowing. Nothing in between, just bam, clear knowing. We call this ego deconstruction. And it has to do with letting go our eagerness or our attachment. I need to know, I want to understand. And so the invitation would be to see if it's possible to let go of this conceptual knowing and to drop into a deeper, immediate understanding. So this part of the Mondo koan process serves an immediate knowing, immediate understanding. The second aspect that I find so precious is it's the philosophical reorientation. It's an update to our narrative, to the story that we tell ourselves about who we are, and exactly about, for example, how knowing works. And so this is exactly what we're doing right now. We are at least trying a little bit to update the narrative of who you are and why it's so important to know, and what are the ways of knowing, the different ways of knowing, to give you the opportunity to maybe experience different forms of knowing deliberately. So this serves conceptual knowing. And the third aspect is the integration of both. The linking between what has conceptual knowing to do with non-conceptual or immediate knowing. How do these relate together? To do this in the emotional koan, in the Mondo Zen koan process, we are working with koans. What is a koan? There are thousands of traditional ancient koans, but we're doing it in a very different way. And one thing is helpful to understand or to know, conceptual, to understand what a koan is. It's kind of an enigmatic question. And it's an enigmatic question that cannot be answered by the conceptual mind. So any answer that will arise from your, oh, I know this. Oh, I have a concept. Oh, I read about it. Oh, I remember. This is all coming from our conceptual mind. This is not what the koan is about. The koan is pointing to the immediate knowing, to the immediate experience. which might today be completely different than it was maybe last time you experienced this. It's right here, right now. What is true right now? And this is how the Mondo Zen can link, can combine these two ways of knowing. By answering the koans or finding answers directly from immediate experiencing and integrating this understanding in our personal philosophical framework, overstanding, and our personal narrative. And this is where the philosophical reorientation and the ego reconstruction takes place. So, if you like to join me in a little experiment, who would like to join a little experiment? Good, good. Some of you may know the Mondo process, some of you don't mind, just follow me. Just listen for a while to the bell. Just listen. And listen as deeply as you can. And listen to the words and the ideas that I just shared that might be still in your mind. Just listen. Just listen to all that is true right now. There's a bell ringing. There's a voice articulating words. There's your mind striving to make sense of what's happening. Just listen. Is it possible to just purely listen without an opinion? Without labeling what's happening? Is it possible to just purely listen to the bell? Is it possible to just purely listen to what I'm saying? Is there a kind of deeper, immediate knowing of the matter right here, right now? Is there a resonance of some sort of truth right now inside yourself? Just listen. Where within your body is this deeper knowing located? Where within your body does this deeper knowing, immediate knowing, has its location? And what is the difference between I know this or that and not knowing? What are you like? What is knowing like at this depth of consciousness? If you know, how do you know that you know? Does this deeper knowing come and go? What feelings arise when you actually experience this insight and understanding? I would like to close this little talk. May we have great faith that this immediate knowing, this clear deep heart mind does not come and go. That it is indeed hard to attain, it is indeed not hard to attain, but impossible to avoid, as Ken Wilber puts it. So let's have great faith. And let's have great doubt, which helps us as soon as we think, oh, now we know that we know, or get fascinated by the concepts of self and other that appear, to remind ourselves that we do not depend upon beliefs, sensations and emotions which arise and fall away. Great doubt. And great determination. Great determination to continue practicing, to distinguish and to go deeper in these two modes of knowing. To stay curious and open-minded with a beginner's mind, to explore deeper what it could mean to go deeper in these two modes of knowing. So that we might recognize this mind throughout the whole universe and experience maturity in awakened mind wisdom. Thank you.